It was a Tuesday morning when the world changed forever. In Seoul, people rushed to work through crowded streets. In Tokyo, students sat in classrooms. In Mumbai, families ate breakfast together. Nobody knew that in exactly 3 minutes, everything they understood about humanity's place in the universe would shatter. Dr. Hana Bay stood at the podium in a conference hall in Geneva, presenting her latest research on quantum mechanics. She was excited, her hands moving as she explained complex equations to the audience of scientists. Her younger brother had sent her a good luck message that morning from Seoul. She smiled thinking about it. High above Earth, Captain Daewon Ryu sat in the cockpit of his fighter ship, running routine patrol exercises. He was young, barely 30, but already one of the best pilots in the defense fleet. Space was peaceful today. The stars were bright. Everything felt normal. In a quiet apartment in Geneva, Admiral Tae-Yang Kim was having breakfast with his wife. They had been married for 25 years. She was visiting from Seoul next week to see her sister. They talked about small things, comfortable things. He poured her more coffee and checked his watch. At exactly 9 o'clock, every screen on Earth went black. Dr. Bay's presentation screen died. The phones in people's pockets lit up on their own. Television broadcasts cut out worldwide. Computer monitors in offices, tablets in homes, even the massive advertising screens in city centers. Everything showed the same image. A face appeared. It was not human. The creature had hard shell-like skin that gleamed under harsh lights. Its eyes were black and multifaceted like an insect's. When it opened its mouth, mandibles clicked together, making a sound that sent chills down the spine of everyone watching. The creature spoke in broken English, its voice harsh and grating. "I am Overlord Kresh of the Vorath Empire. Your planet and your sun now belong to us. You have 24 hours to surrender. Destroy all weapons. Disable all ships. Prepare to serve." The creature paused, its mandibles clicking in what might have been a smile. "To show you the cost of resistance, we provide a demonstration." The image changed. 3 massive ships hovered over Seoul. They were dark, angular, and covered in strange symbols. The camera view was from the ground, showing people in the streets looking up in confusion and fear. Dr. Bay's heart stopped. That was Seoul. Her brother was there. Her parents were there. The ships opened fire. Beams of superheated plasma rained down on the city. Buildings exploded. Streets melted. The heat was so intense that glass turned to liquid and metal burned like paper. The bombardment was systematic, moving street by street, block by block. There was no escape. No warning, no mercy. The world watched in horror. Every person on Earth saw it happening in real time. Parents tried to cover their children's eyes. People screamed at their screens. Some fell to their knees and prayed. In Geneva, Dr. Bay grabbed her phone with shaking hands. She tried to call her brother. The call would not connect. She tried her parents. Nothing. She tried again and again, her vision blurring with tears. In orbit, Captain Ryu watched the bombardment through his ship's sensors. He could see the heat signatures, the destruction spreading like a disease across the city. He screamed into his radio, demanding permission to engage. His squadron was ready. They could be there in minutes. "Negative," came the cold response from command. "You are too far. By the time you arrive, it will be over. Hold position." Ryu slammed his fist against the console. He had never felt so helpless in his life. Sergeant Bo-Ra Shin was off duty in Tokyo when the broadcast started. She watched the screen in frozen horror as the city where she grew up burned. Her mother, her father, her 2 younger sisters, all of them were in Seoul. She grabbed her phone and started calling. Every number went to silence. The attack lasted 27 minutes. When it finally stopped, Seoul was gone. Where a city of 10 million people had stood, there was only burning rubble and melted concrete. The ships had been thorough, efficient, merciless. Overlord Kresh's face returned to every screen. His mandibles clicked again. 7 million dead in less than half an hour. This is the price of defiance. You have 24 hours to surrender completely. If you resist, every city on your planet will burn like this one. Choose wisely, humans. The screens went black. Normal broadcasts tried to resume, but chaos erupted everywhere. People ran through streets screaming. Some cities declared immediate curfews. Others saw riots break out as rage and fear collided. Admiral Kim sat at his breakfast table, his coffee growing cold in his hand. His wife had been planning to visit her sister in Seoul tomorrow. Tomorrow. 1 day away from being in that inferno. His face remained calm, but his knuckles were white as he gripped the cup. His phone rang. It was the emergency line from Defense Command. "Admiral, you are ordered to report to the secure facility immediately. The President is convening the War Council." The voice on the other end was shaking. Kim stood up slowly. He looked at his wife. She was crying silently, her hand over her mouth. Her sister was dead. Her niece and nephew were dead. 7 million people were dead. "I have to go," he said quietly. She nodded, unable to speak. Deep beneath the streets of Geneva, in a bunker built to survive nuclear war, the leaders of Earth gathered. President Myung-Hwa Choi sat at the head of the table. Her face was pale but composed. Around her, defense ministers, military commanders, and scientists argued in raised voices. "We have to surrender. We have no choice. They will destroy everything." One minister shouted, "If we surrender, we become slaves." "Is that better than death?" Another replied, "We need time to evacuate the cities." "Evacuate to where? They control space. There is nowhere to run." President Choi raised her hand and silence fell. "Admiral Kim, you have been silent. What is your assessment?" All eyes turned to the gray-haired admiral. He sat perfectly still, his face showing no emotion. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but clear. "Madam President, I request a private meeting with you and your inner circle. What I need to discuss cannot be shared with this group." Confused murmurs filled the room. President Choi studied his face for a long moment, then nodded. "Clear the room. I want only Admiral Kim, Dr. Bae from the Science Division, and General Park." When the doors closed and only 4 people remained, Admiral Kim stood. He walked to a secure terminal and entered a long series of codes. A hidden screen rose from the table showing files marked with the highest level of classification. "What you are about to see," Kim said, "is known to only 12 people on Earth. We have been preparing for this day for 30 years. He pressed a button, and the screen filled with images, weapons, ships, bases hidden in asteroid fields, technology that should not exist. President Choi's eyes widened. Dr. Bae gasped. General Park leaned forward, unable to believe what he was seeing. "The Vorath think we are helpless," Admiral Kim said, and for the first time, a cold smile crossed his face. "They are about to learn what humans do when you hurt us. They are about to learn that we have spent a century preparing for the day someone came to take our home, and they are about to learn the most important lesson of all." He looked at each of them in turn. "Never mistake our patience for weakness." The secure room remained silent for a long moment after Admiral Kim finished his presentation. President Choi stared at the screen, watching footage of massive warships moving through asteroid fields. Ships that were supposed to be mining vessels. Ships that were actually weapons platforms. "How long?" she asked quietly. "How long have we been building this?" 32 years, Madam President. Since the first time we detected artificial signals from deep space. We knew we were not alone. We knew that first contact might not be friendly. So we prepared." Dr. Bae stood up and walked closer to the screen. Her eyes were red from crying, but now they were sharp and focused. She recognized some of the technology. Her own research had contributed to it, though she had never seen the full picture. "The quantum disruptors," she said, pointing at a schematic. "I designed the theory 5 years ago. I thought it was just research." "You actually built them?" "We built everything you designed, Doctor. And more, much more." Admiral Kim changed the display to show a massive ship under construction in the darkness beyond Neptune. "This is the Vengeance, a Dreadnought-class warship. It has been under construction for 15 years. Last month it became operational." General Park shook his head in disbelief. Even he, one of Earth's top military commanders, had not known. The secrecy had been absolute. "How many ships do we have?" he asked. "The Vorath detected 43 vessels in our defense fleet. They think that is our entire military. They are wrong. We have 312 combat-capable ships hidden throughout the solar system. We have weapons platforms disguised as research stations. We have manufacturing facilities inside asteroids. And we have been watching their fleet very carefully since they arrived." President Choi turned away from the screen and faced Admiral Kim directly. Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. "Can we win?" "Yes, but not immediately. We need time. Time to position our forces. Time to learn everything about them. Time to track them back to their home system." He paused. "We need them to think they have already won." Dr. Bae understood first. Her face went pale. You want us to surrender, not actually surrender. Make them believe we have surrendered. Let them get comfortable. Let them get careless. Meanwhile, we prepare the real attack. President Choi walked to the window of the bunker. Through the reinforced glass, she could see the city above, still reeling from the broadcast. 7 million people were dead. How many more would die if they fought openly? How many would die if they did nothing? What is your plan, Admiral? Kim pulled up another file. It was labeled Project Nightfall. The name alone sent a chill through the room. We announce our surrender publicly. Very emotional. Very convincing. We start decommissioning ships in orbit where they can watch. We play the role of defeated, terrified humans. But in secret, we activate every hidden asset. We track their movements. We intercept their communications. We learn where they came from, and then, General Park asked, though he already knew the answer. Then we show them what humanity does to those who attack our home. 6 hours later, President Choi stood before the cameras. Her eyes were red. Her voice broke as she spoke. Every word was broadcast across Earth and into space, ensuring the Vorath would hear it. Today we lost 7 million innocent people. Mothers, fathers, children, friends. They died to prove a point, to show us we are powerless. And perhaps they are right. Perhaps we cannot win this fight. Perhaps the only way to save the rest of humanity is to accept defeat. She paused, wiping tears from her face. The world watched. The Vorath watched. Therefore, with a heavy heart, I announce that Earth will comply with the Vorath demands. We will dismantle our weapons. We will disable our ships. We will surrender. We choose survival over pride. We choose to live, even if it means living under their rule. The speech continued, but aboard the Vorath command ship, Overlord Kresh stopped listening. He clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. The humans had broken faster than expected. This would be an easy conquest after all. Excellent, he said to High Counselor Vren. Begin moving our occupation forces into position. The humans will learn to serve us well. They are good at following orders. On Earth, riots erupted in every major city. People could not believe their government had given up so easily. They threw rocks at government buildings. They burned flags. They demanded their leaders fight back, even if it meant death. But in the secure bunkers, a different kind of activity was happening. Admiral Kim stood in a command center that officially did not exist. Around him, screens showed every Vorath ship in the solar system. Officers worked at terminals, their faces grim but determined. Begin Phase 2, Kim ordered. Activate all stealth monitoring. I want to know everything about these creatures. What they eat, how they sleep, where they come from, and most importantly, where their home is. Captain Ryu received his orders 3 days after the surrender announcement. He was to take his squadron and pose as civilian transport ships. Their real mission was to track Vorath fleet movements using passive sensors that the aliens could not detect. He hated it. Every fiber of his being wanted to attack, to fight, to make them pay for what they did to Sol. But he was a soldier. He followed orders. And deep down, he understood the wisdom of the plan. For 3 weeks, he and his pilots flew around the solar system, pretending to transport supplies to various stations. All the while, their ship's computers recorded every Vorath transmission, every ship movement, every communication burst. Sergeant Shin received a different assignment. She was to lead a small team to Mars, where the Vorath had established a command post to oversee Earth's disarmament. Her mission was infiltration and intelligence gathering. It took her team 2 days to reach Mars without being detected. Another 3 days to get close to the Vorath facility. The aliens were arrogant, confident in their victory. Their security was surprisingly weak. Under cover of a dust storm, Shin and her team planted listening devices throughout the facility. They hacked into the Vorath computer networks. They downloaded command protocols, ship designs, and communication frequencies. One night, crouched in the shadows of a Vorath barracks, Shin listened to 2 alien soldiers talking. They were laughing about the humans, about how weak they were, about how easy the conquest had been. She gripped her knife so hard her knuckles went white, but she stayed hidden. The information was more valuable than revenge. For now, Dr. Bay worked around the clock in her laboratory. With the Vorath thinking humanity was defeated, she could work openly on weapon systems without arousing suspicion. The aliens thought she was dismantling research equipment. In reality, she was perfecting it. The quantum disruptors were her pride and joy. In theory, they could tear apart the molecular bonds of any matter. The Vorath shields were designed to stop conventional weapons. They had never encountered anything like this. But there was another project, one that kept her awake at night, one that made her stomach turn every time she thought about it. The Cascade Drive. It was a weapon beyond anything humanity had ever conceived. A device that could destabilize a star, causing it to expand and consume everything in its system. Planets, moons, stations, ships, everything. The mathematics said it would work. The ethics said it should never be used. Admiral Kim asked her about it one evening. They stood in her lab looking at the prototype. It was surprisingly small, no larger than a car. "If we use this," Bay said quietly, "we kill not just soldiers, not just their leaders. We kill every living thing in their home system. Children, civilians, innocent people who had nothing to do with what happened to Seoul." Kim was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with the weight of command. "Doctor, we may not need to use it, but we need to have it ready. Because if we are going to their home system to fight, we need to be prepared for every possibility, including the worst ones." 3 weeks and 2 days after the massacre, the final piece of the puzzle fell into place. Captain Ryu's surveillance team intercepted a transmission from the Vorath fleet. It was a routine status report, sent back to their home system using faster-than-light communication. The transmission contained navigation data, star charts, coordinates. They knew where the Vorath came from. Admiral Kim stood in the command center, looking at the star map on the main screen. A small red dot marked the Vorath home system. It was 42 light-years away. With the captured, faster-than-light drive technology they had been secretly studying, they could reach it in 4 days. Around him, his officers waited. President Choi watched via secure video link. The moment of decision had arrived. "Orders, Admiral?" General Park asked. Kim took a deep breath. He thought about his wife's sister, about 7 million people who died while the world watched helplessly. He thought about every human who had ever lived, who had struggled and fought and built something beautiful on a small blue planet. He thought about what needed to be done. Activate all hidden assets. Begin final preparations. In 72 hours, we stop pretending to be defeated. He paused, his voice dropping to something cold and hard. In 72 hours, we show the Vorath what happens when you mistake humanity's patience for weakness. The command center erupted into controlled activity. Orders were transmitted on encrypted channels. Ships that had been drifting dead in space for weeks suddenly came to life. Weapons platforms emerged from asteroid hiding places. The attack began at exactly 3 a.m, Greenwich Mean Time. The Vorath had no warning. One moment their sensors showed the dead, drifting hulks of defeated human ships. The next moment, those ships came alive with power signatures that should not have existed. Aboard the Vorath command ship orbiting Earth, Commander Thex was reviewing supply reports when the alarm screamed. His mandibles clicked in confusion as he stared at the tactical display. Impossible. The humans had surrendered. They had dismantled their weapons. How could this be happening? The answer came in the form of weapons fire that tore through his forward shields as if they were made of paper. The quantum disruptors did not just penetrate the shields. They made the shields irrelevant. All over the solar system, the same scene played out. Vorath ships scrambled to battle stations, trying to understand what was happening. Mining platforms that had seemed harmless suddenly revealed missile batteries. Research stations began firing particle beams. Dead ships came back to life and opened fire with weapons the Vorath had never seen before. Captain Ryu led his fighter squadron in the first strike wave. His hands moved across the controls with practiced precision, his ship dancing through space as if it were an extension of his body. He had been waiting for this moment for 28 days. Waiting to make them pay. "Target the command ships first," he said into his comm. "Cut off their coordination. Make them afraid. Make them understand what they did to us." His squadron obeyed. 50 fighters moved as one, their quantum missiles tracking toward the largest Vorath vessels. The aliens tried to evade, tried to deploy countermeasures, but nothing worked. Human weapons had been designed specifically to counter everything the Vorath had. The first Vorath command ship exploded in a brilliant flash. Then the second. Then the third. In the first 5 minutes of the battle, humanity destroyed every major enemy vessel within range of Earth. From the bridge of the Vengeance, Admiral Kim watched the tactical display with cold satisfaction. The massive dreadnought had been hiding behind Jupiter's moon Callisto, waiting for this exact moment. Now it moved into the battle, its main cannon charging. "All batteries prepare to fire on my mark," Kim ordered. "Show them what real firepower looks like." The Vengeance opened fire. Its main cannon, powered by a miniature fusion reactor, released a beam of concentrated energy that crossed the distance between Jupiter and Earth in seconds. It struck Commander Thex's flagship dead center. The Vorath ship did not explode. It simply ceased to exist, torn apart at the atomic level. Throughout the solar system, the Vorath fleet tried to regroup, tried to mount a defense. But they were fighting an enemy that had spent 3 weeks studying their every weakness, learning their tactics, understanding their technology. Every move they made was anticipated. Every strategy they attempted was countered. Near Mars, Sergeant Shin and her team watched the battle from the Vorath command post they had infiltrated weeks ago. She had planted charges throughout the facility, waiting for this moment. When the battle began, she triggered them all. The explosion was visible from Earth, a small sun blooming on the red planet's surface. The Vorath troops stationed there died before they knew they were under attack. Shin felt no satisfaction, only cold purpose. This was war. This was justice. The battle for the solar system lasted 17 minutes. When it ended, 300 Vorath ships had been destroyed. Only 3 had escaped, jumping to faster-than-light speed and fleeing back toward their home system. Admiral Kim had expected this. He wanted them to escape. He needed them to lead humanity back to their origin. "Launch pursuit fleet," he ordered. 30 strike cruisers. Full quantum armament. "Dr. Bay, are the new weapons ready?" On the science vessel, Dr. Bay looked at the weapons she had designed. The quantum disruptors had worked perfectly. The particle cannons had exceeded expectations. But there was one weapon she had hoped they would never need. The Cascade Drive sat in its containment field, small and innocent-looking. She thought about what it could do, what it would do if activated near a star. She thought about the moral weight of such a weapon. "All weapons are ready, Admiral." She hesitated. "Including the one you asked about, loaded on the Vengeance. I pray we do not need it, but if we do, we must have it." The pursuit fleet launched within an hour. 30 of humanity's best ships, crewed by people who had lost friends and family and soul. They followed the fleeing Vorath vessels at a distance, tracking their faster-than-light signature through the void between stars. Captain Ryu commanded one of the pursuit ships. His fighter squadron had been transferred to the cruiser Spirit of Soul, named in honor of the fallen city. As they traveled through the darkness, he found he could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the bombardment, saw the city burning, heard the screams that haunted his dreams. Sergeant Shin was aboard another ship, the Vengeance's sister vessel called Remember Them. She spent her time in the gym, training, pushing her body until exhaustion forced sleep. Even then the dreams came, her mother's voice calling her. Her sisters laughing. All gone now. The journey took 4 days. 4 days of anticipation and dread. 4 days of preparation and planning. 4 days to think about what they were about to do. On the Vengeance, Admiral Kim called a meeting of his senior staff. President Choi joined via secure communication link from Earth. The holographic display showed the Vorath home system ahead. 3 planets, billions of civilians, hundreds of military installations. "We have a decision to make," Kim said quietly. "We have the power to end this war completely. The Cascade Drive can destroy their star, killing everything in this system. They would never threaten anyone again." Dr. Bay spoke up immediately. "That would make us worse than them, Admiral. They killed 7 million. We would be killing billions. How does that make us better?" "It makes us survivors," General Park argued. "It ensures they can never attack us again. It sends a message to every species in the galaxy that humanity cannot be threatened." "What message does it send if we commit genocide?" Bay countered. "That we are just as cruel, just as willing to kill innocents?" The debate raged for an hour. Officers and scientists argued passionately on both sides. Some wanted total victory, the complete elimination of the threat. Others wanted justice, not vengeance. The weight of billions of lives hung in the balance. Finally, President Choi spoke. Her image flickered in the holographic display, her face lined with exhaustion and sorrow. "I have listened to all of you. I have thought about this every day since we learned we had this capability, and I have made my decision." The room fell silent. "We will not use the Cascade Drive. We will destroy their military completely. We will cripple their ability to ever wage war again. But we will not commit genocide, because if we do, we become exactly what they thought we were, weak creatures ruled by fear and rage. Instead, we will show them something they clearly do not understand: mercy. Some officers looked relieved. Others looked disappointed. Admiral Kim simply nodded. He had hoped for this decision, but he had been prepared to follow any order. Very well, Madam President. We will show them mercy, but first we will show them war. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Vorath home system. Before them lay the heart of an empire that had conquered 17 species over 3 centuries. Orbital platforms surrounded the planets. Defense satellites filled the space between worlds. A fleet of 500 ships guarded their home. On the largest orbital fortress above Vorath Prime, Overlord Kresh stared at his tactical display in disbelief. The humans had come here, to his home, with an armada that should not exist. How? He demanded of his officers. How did they hide this fleet? How did they develop these weapons? How did they find us? No one had answers. The humans had played their role perfectly. They had seemed defeated, broken, helpless. It had all been a lie. A communication signal reached the Vorath network. Every screen in their system displayed the same image. A human face, Admiral Kim, standing on the bridge of his warship, his expression cold and hard as steel. Overlord Kresh, Kim said, his voice broadcast to every Vorath in the system. You killed 7 million of my people. You broadcast their deaths as entertainment. You called us weak. You called us prey. You made one critical mistake. He paused, letting the words sink in. You assumed we would react as you would, that we would break or rage blindly. But we are not you. We are humanity. We are patient. We are thorough. And now we are here to teach you what happens when you attack our home. The transmission ended. For a moment there was silence across the system. Then the battle began. The Vorath had fought many wars. They had conquered 17 species across 300 years. They considered themselves masters of combat, experts in warfare, superior to every race they encountered. In the first hour of fighting, they learned how wrong they were. Human tactics were unlike anything the Vorath had seen. The ships moved in coordination that seemed almost telepathic. They struck weak points the Vorath did not know they had. They used weapons that made traditional defenses meaningless. But more than that, the humans fought with a controlled fury that was terrifying to witness. This was not the blind rage of a wounded animal. This was calculated, precise, overwhelming violence. Captain Ryu led his squadron through the orbital platforms around Vorath Prime. His fighters moved like dancers, weaving through defensive fire that would have destroyed lesser pilots. Each pass destroyed another station, another weapons battery, another piece of the Vorath defense network. This is for Sol, he said quietly each time he fired. For every person who died, for every family torn apart. This is what you earned. The Vorath fleet tried to mount a defense. 500 ships against 30 seemed like favorable odds. But numbers meant nothing when the quality gap was this large. Human quantum missiles ignored shields. Human targeting computers anticipated every evasive maneuver. Human coordination turned the battle into a systematic execution. On the Vengeance, Admiral Kim watched the tactical display with the cold satisfaction of a chess master seeing his plan unfold perfectly. Every move had been calculated. Every contingency had been planned for. The Vorath were not fighting a battle. They were being dismantled. Focus fire on their command structure, he ordered. Take out the flagships first. Make them leaderless. Make them afraid. The human fleet obeyed. One by one, the largest Vorath ships were targeted and destroyed. Each explosion left the remaining ships more confused, more desperate, more vulnerable. Sergeant Shin commanded a boarding party that struck the main orbital fortress. While the space battle raged outside, she led her team through the station's corridors. The Vorath troops they encountered were unprepared for close combat with humans. They were used to conquering civilizations that surrendered after a show of force. They were not used to facing soldiers who had trained for years specifically to kill them. Shin moved through the fortress like death itself. Her team neutralized resistance, captured command centers, and downloaded every piece of data they could find. Ship designs, tactical information, industrial locations, colony worlds. Everything that would be needed to ensure the Vorath could never threaten anyone again. In one corridor, she found a group of young Vorath civilians huddled together, terrified. They looked at her with fear, expecting death. She lowered her weapon and moved past them. They were not soldiers. They were not guilty. They would live. 8 hours into the battle, the Vorath fleet was shattered. Of 500 ships, only 3 dozen remained, scattered and fleeing. The orbital defenses were offline. The platforms were destroyed. The path to the planet below was clear. Admiral Kim opened a communication channel to the planet. He knew Overlord Kresh was still alive, hiding in his fortress on the surface. He wanted the Vorath leader to hear what came next. Overlord Kresh, your fleet is destroyed. Your defenses are gone. Your empire is broken. You wanted to see humanity defeated. Instead, you will see your own defeat. You will see what we could do to you, and you will see what we choose not to do. On the planet below, in his fortified bunker, Kresh listened with growing horror. His mandibles clicked nervously. Around him, his advisors were silent. High Counselor Vren, who had authorized the attack on Sol, sat with his head in his hands. We have a weapon, Kim continued, that could destroy your son. We could end every life in this system in minutes. We have the capability. We have the justification. 7 million of our people died by your order. We could repay that debt 1,000-fold. Kresh felt fear for the first time in his long life. True, deep, primal fear. They could do it. He could see in the humans' eyes that they had the power, and they had every reason to use it, but we will not, Kim said. Not because you deserve mercy, not because we forgive you, but because we refuse to become what you are. We will not kill innocent civilians to make a point. We will not punish children for the crimes of their leaders. He paused, letting the words sink in across every broadcast system in the Vorath Empire. Instead, we will take away your ability to ever threaten anyone again. Every warship will be destroyed. Every weapons factory will be dismantled. Every military installation will be reduced to rubble. Your empire is over. Your conquests are finished. And you will live with the knowledge that humanity could have destroyed you completely, but chose not to. Over the next 3 days, the human fleet systematically destroyed the Vorath military infrastructure. Ships were blown apart. Orbital factories were reduced to debris. Ground installations were targeted from space with such precision that surrounding civilian areas were untouched. Dr. Bay coordinated the strikes from her science vessel, ensuring that every target was military, that no unnecessary destruction occurred. It was painstaking work, requiring constant verification and triple checking. But it was important. The moral high ground mattered as much as the military victory. On the 4th day, Admiral Kim ordered Overlord Kresh to be brought to the Vengeance. A team led by Sergeant Shin extracted him from his bunker. The once proud ruler was diminished, his chitinous armor cracked, his mandibles hanging loose. He looked defeated in a way that went beyond physical injury. They brought him to the bridge. Kim stood at the main viewport looking down at the Vorath homeworld. Cities sprawled below, intact and functioning. Millions of civilians going about their lives, saved by a decision they would never fully understand. Why? Kresh asked, his voice a broken rasp. Why did you spare us? Kim turned to face him. His expression was unreadable. Because if we had killed your civilians the way you killed ours, it would have made us just like you, and we refused to be like you. You attacked us thinking we were weak. You thought our compassion was weakness. You were wrong. He gestured to the planet below. Your people will live. Your children will grow up. Your civilization will continue, but it will never again be a military power. You will never again conquer other species. You will never again broadcast the deaths of millions for propaganda. And every day for the rest of your life, you will remember that humanity defeated you and then showed you mercy you never would have shown us. Kresh looked at the human admiral, trying to understand. In his culture, mercy was unknown. The defeated were enslaved or exterminated. There was no middle ground. What the humans were doing made no sense to him. That was the point. Kim wanted them to live with the incomprehensible, to spend generations trying to understand why humanity had been merciful. It was a lesson more powerful than extinction. You are being returned to your planet, Kim said. You will tell your people what happened here. You will tell them about the weapon we could have used but did not. You will tell them that humanity is not to be threatened, not to be attacked, and not to be underestimated. Kresh was escorted off the bridge. As he left, Captain Ryu watched him go. The young pilot's fists were clenched. He wanted to see the Vorath leader dead, wanted to see their world burn the way Sol had burned, but he understood the wisdom in restraint. Sometimes the greatest victory was showing you had the power to destroy, but the wisdom not to. Before leaving the system, Admiral Kim left behind a network of monitoring satellites, advanced sensors that would detect any attempt to rebuild military capabilities, a warning system that would alert humanity if the Vorath ever forgot the lesson they had been taught. The human fleet began its journey home. They left behind a broken empire, a defeated species, and a powerful message that would spread throughout the galaxy. Humanity had proven itself capable of terrible violence. But more importantly, humanity had proven itself capable of terrible mercy. The fleet arrived back at Earth 43 days after the massacre. There were no parades, no celebrations. The cost had been too high, the wounds too fresh. Instead, there was a silence that spoke louder than any cheering crowd. Where Sol had stood, now there was only a memorial field. The rubble had been cleared away, the destroyed buildings removed. In their place, 7 million lights had been installed. Each light represented one person who had died. At night, they illuminated the darkness, a constellation of loss that could be seen from space. Admiral Kim stood in the center of that field. His wife was beside him, her hand in his. They looked at the lights surrounding them, each one a life cut short. Her sister was here somewhere. Her niece and nephew, 7 million stories that would never be finished. We won, his wife said quietly. Why does it feel like we lost? Because victory and justice are not the same thing, Kim replied. We stopped them. We made sure they can never hurt anyone again, but we cannot bring back the people we lost. That is the tragedy of war. Even when you win, you lose. The memorial service was held on a gray morning. Leaders from every nation attended. President Choi gave a speech that brought tears to millions. She spoke about sacrifice and resilience, about humanity's strength and humanity's mercy. She spoke about the future and the past, about remembering and moving forward. But the words that mattered most came from a young girl, barely 10 years old. She had lost her entire family in the attack. She stood at the podium, small and brave, and read a letter she had written. My mom told me that being strong means protecting people who cannot protect themselves. My dad told me that being smart means thinking before you act. My brother told me that being brave means doing what is right even when you are scared. They taught me these things and then they died. But what they taught me did not die. It is still here, in all of us. She looked out at the crowd, her eyes bright with unshed tears. I am glad we won. But I am more glad that we stayed good while we won. Because that is what my family would have wanted. There was not a dry eye in the crowd. The little girl had said in simple words what everyone felt but could not express. Captain Ryu attended the ceremony in his dress uniform. Afterward, he visited a small grave marker in the military section. It was not for anyone he knew personally. It was for a pilot who had died in the battle above the Vorath homeworld. One of the few casualties humanity had taken, the pilot had been young, eager, skilled. He had died destroying a Vorath weapons platform, saving a civilian transport in the process. Ryu had read the report, had seen the tactical footage. The pilot had made the choice without hesitation. That was what separated humanity from the Vorath, Ryu realized. The Vorath killed civilians as a demonstration of power. Humans died protecting them, even enemy civilians. That difference mattered. Sergeant Shin did not attend the memorial. She spent that day at an orphanage, helping children who had lost their families. She taught them self-defense not because she wanted them to be soldiers, but because she wanted them to feel safe again, to feel like they had some control over their lives. One little boy, barely 6, asked her why the bad aliens had attacked Earth. She knelt down to his level and spoke gently. Sometimes people do bad things because they do not understand. They thought we were weak. They thought we would be easy to control. They were wrong. But being strong is not just about fighting. It is about knowing when to fight and when to show kindness. Did we show them kindness? The boy asked. We showed them mercy. We could have killed all of them, but we did not. We only stopped the ones who were dangerous. That is what heroes do. The boy thought about this for a moment, then nodded. I want to be a hero like you when I grow up. Shin felt tears prick her eyes. Then be kind first and strong second. In that order. Always. Dr. Bay returned to her laboratory, but her work had changed. She was no longer designing weapons. Instead, she focused on early warning systems, communication technologies, and defensive shields. Tools to prevent war, not to wage it. The Cascade Drive was dismantled. She personally supervised its destruction, ensuring that no one could ever use it. The knowledge of how to build it still existed, locked away in classified files, but the weapon itself was gone, and she made sure President Choi understood it should never be built again. "Some weapons are too terrible to exist," she told the president. "We proved we could build it. We proved we could choose not to use it. That should be enough." 2 months after the war ended, President Choi made a historic broadcast. It was transmitted on all frequencies, sent to every corner of explored space. She spoke clearly and firmly. "To any species receiving this message, I am President Myung-Hwa Choi of the United Earth Government. You may have heard what happened here. An alien empire attacked our planet. They killed 7 million of our people. They demanded our surrender. They thought we were weak." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "They were wrong. We defended ourselves. We pursued them to their home system. We destroyed their military completely. And then we showed them mercy, not because they deserved it, but because we refused to become what they are." Her voice grew stronger, more determined. "This is our message to the galaxy. We are humanity. We seek peace and friendship with all species. We will trade fairly. We will cooperate willingly. We will help those in need. But we will not tolerate aggression. We will not allow ourselves or others to be victimized. We have shown mercy once. Do not mistake that mercy for weakness. Do not force us to show you what we can do when our mercy runs out." The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, species who had been watching the situation with Earth received the message. Some were impressed. Some were frightened. All of them took note. 3 years passed. Earth rebuilt. The scars remained, but they became part of a stronger foundation. The military, once a collection of separate forces, became the Unified Defense Initiative. Admiral Kim, now retired from active combat duty, led its formation. His goal was simple: ensure humanity was always prepared, always vigilant, but never aggressive. Captain Ryu, promoted to admiral, took command of the exploration fleet. His mission was to map the galaxy, to find other species, to establish contact. He carried with him the lessons learned from the war: strength without arrogance, preparation without paranoia, power tempered by wisdom. In those 3 years, 5 alien species independently contacted Earth. They all said the same thing. They had watched what humanity did to the Vorath. They had seen the power, yes, but more importantly, they had seen the restraint. They wanted humanity as an ally, not an enemy. They wanted to learn from a species that could win a war without losing its soul. On the 10th anniversary of the massacre, a new memorial was unveiled in Seoul. The city had been rebuilt, modern and beautiful, but the memorial field remained. A massive structure now stood at its center. It was a tower of glass and light, spiraling upward toward the sky. At night, it glowed with those 7 million lights, visible from anywhere in the city. At the base of the tower, an inscription was carved in every language spoken on Earth. They died so humanity would know its strength. We live so that strength is used wisely. Remember the fallen. Honor their sacrifice. Build a future worthy of their memory. Below that, in smaller letters, was a second message. This one was in Vorath script. We could have destroyed you. We chose not to. Remember why. On the Vorath homeworld, in their schools, young Vorath learned about the Great Humbling. They learned how their empire had tried to conquer a species called humanity, how they had killed millions to demonstrate power, how humanity had responded with overwhelming force and unexpected mercy. The lesson was taught carefully. Not to glorify the humans, but to teach humility, to teach that strength comes in many forms, that mercy can be more powerful than vengeance, that some species should be befriended, not conquered. A young Vorath student asked her teacher a question one day. If the humans could have killed us all, why did they let us live? The teacher clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. Because they understand something we did not. That true power is not in destroying your enemies. It is in making your enemies question why they were your enemies in the first place. They wanted us to live, to remember, to change. And so we have. 20 years after the war, Admiral Kim passed away peacefully in his sleep. He was given a state funeral with full military honors. Leaders from 12 different species attended. They all spoke of his wisdom, his courage, and his restraint. But the most moving tribute came from an unexpected source. A Vorath delegation arrived at Earth, carrying a message from their people. It was an apology, formal and sincere, for the attack on Seoul. It acknowledged the suffering caused. It expressed gratitude for the mercy shown, and it proposed a memorial to be built on the Vorath homeworld, honoring the 7 million humans who had died. The delegation was led by a young Vorath who had been a child during the war. She spoke at Admiral Kim's funeral, her words translated for the human audience. This human taught my people the most important lesson we have ever learned. That being strong does not mean being cruel. That winning does not require destroying. That enemies can become something else if given the chance. On behalf of my entire species, I thank him, and I promise that we will never forget what humanity showed us.